Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Good morning, NFC East. Happy Thursday. Jeff Kerr here. Tone the Shields here. Also, we got a guy who tried to run away from us yesterday, but he knows better. He's known me too long. And the last time the Eagles and Giants were in the playoffs, we had an emotional but fun show. Actually, no, I have to correct myself here, Tone. The Giants were in the playoffs. The Eagles were not. But what's the term? You shoot your shot. I shot my shot from about 40 feet and said the 5-9 Eagles were going to beat the 10-4. I think they were 10-4 at the time. Yeah, 10-4 Giants, and they beat them on Thursday Night Football in a short week. So, how you feeling today, Tone?
Hey, listen, I'm doing good, man. I'm super excited about this segment. This is the first for us. We normally keep all our guests in the second segment, but let's start the morning off strong, right? We know the Eagles face off with the Giants in the playoffs, the divisional round. Who would have thought, man? And I got to give credit to the Giants, but listen, let's give credit to the guy that had faith all along. Our guy, the man, the myth, the legend, our resident Giants fan, Kevin Borlard. How are you feeling today, sir?
I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know about you guys. I imagine I feel better than the average Eagles fan right now, you know?
Oh, the average Eagles fan, they're the worst, Kevin. I'm telling you, they're worried about this red-hot Giants team that's 3-5-1 in their last 9 games.
I mean, shoot. I mean, let's just look since week 14, Jeff. I mean, yeah, the Eagles got the win over the Giants' third stringers in week 18, if you feel good about that. But come on, man. Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown a touchdown pass since week 14. You realize that?
He's also ran for 3 touchdowns since week 14.
Yeah, in one game. You know how many? You know how good Daniel Jones has looked since then? I'm just telling you, the Eagles peaked over a month ago. Like your season, your high point, it already happened.
Are you sold? You're sold on the Vikings then? Is that what you're trying to tell? You're sold on that Swiss cheese that you could have ran through?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that the Eagles couldn't have beat the Vikings either. We saw early in the season what happened when the Eagles and the Vikings played each other. All I'm saying right now is the Giants are objectively hotter than the Eagles.
Well, here's my perspective, right? First and foremost, got to give the utmost credit to the Giants. They have been playing some pretty good football as of late. But I want to focus on, what's recent, right? What they've shown us as of late. And that's the fact that they did beat the Minnesota Vikings. And they didn't just beat them. They went blow for blow with them, which I thought was pretty impressive. Now, again, I'm not taking anything away from that loss. Daniel Jones played a hell of a game. And I thought it was really impressive how Saquon was able to get involved the way he did. And it still had plenty of tread on the tires. I think that was probably the most impressive thing about that win, that Daniel Jones was the engine that could. He was the engine that did, as a matter of fact, and they did get the win. But how much credit do we really, objectively speaking, how much credit do we really give that Vikings defense in the totality of their season, right? They're a 13-win team, but they're probably the most illegitimate 13-win team that I've seen. And that defense has been so bad to the point where I think my grandmother could probably, get some touchdowns on it. You know,
I mean, come on.
again,
Is it the worst defense of all time in NFL playoff history?
definitely not,
That's
definitely
the way they're treating it. The way people want to, particularly Eagles fans, want to discredit what Daniel Jones did in that game. No player in NFL history had ever thrown for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and run for 70-plus yards in a playoff game. And everyone, Eagles fans, Cowboys fans, want to say, oh, it's just because the Vikings defense is so bad. It doesn't matter who they could have played. Anyone could have done it. I don't believe that's true. You all just want to minimize what Daniel Jones is doing because you don't want to admit it. He's here. He's arrived. It's now. It's Daniel Jones' time. Jalen Hurts, his time was a month ago. His time was almost winning the MVP award. Who knows? Maybe he'll still get a few votes. Daniel Jones won't get any votes, but it doesn't matter because when it's announced, I'll tell you, Daniel Jones and the Giants have a better chance of being alive in the playoffs when it's announced the day before the Super Bowl than the Eagles do at this point.
Oh, here we go. So this is what this game reminds me of, Kevin. You remember back when we were younger, I want to say, 10, 12 years old, when the Giants and the Eagles met for the third time in 2000. Yes. And the optimist in me was like, oh, no, the Giants kicked the Eagles, you know what, both times during the year. Oh, yeah, the Eagles had a chance. Ron Dixon took that away 5 seconds into the game. I was like, oh, yeah, the Eagles aren't going to win. They're not being this team. This Giants team's going to the Super Bowl, whatever. Does it kind of feel that way for you right now on the opposite end of the spectrum, like the Giants have nothing to lose?
It does. It feels like playing with house money. I mean, let's be honest, Jeff. I've been on this show all year. I've been probably the most optimistic Giants fan you could have spoken to all year. And never was I saying, except for week 14, when I said if they beat the Eagles, they'll go to the Super Bowl. They obviously got trounced in that game. But I think there was an energy transfer in that game. The Eagles became a losing team ever since then, and the Giants became a winning team ever since then. Look at the last 2 times Daniel Jones has started. The Vikings game and the Colts game in week 17. The dude was absolutely near perfect. He's diming right now, and you cannot overstate the power of playing for a contract. Who are the 3 biggest players on the Giants right now that everyone's talking about? Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Dexter Lawrence. 2 of those 3 are going to be free agents next spring. Dexter Lawrence is going into his 5th year after this. He wants to sign a new deal before he goes into that 5th year. Those 3 are playing for money, dude. There's a lot on the line for those 3, and you can't underestimate when you put that on the line. Players ball out, and you're seeing Danny Dime, you're seeing Saquon run for touchdowns, you're seeing Dexter Lawrence ruin everything, dude. You can't mess with those 3.
Don't you think go ahead, Ton.
I think what's being overlooked, although the Giants are having a pretty solid playoff start, what's being overlooked is the fact that we're just better. In every position group, we're just better. Like, I mean, you could probably debate. You can debate at this point the running back. Saquon, I will always take Saquon over Miles Sanders. I don't think that's a question in any category. I think your safeties are on par with ours. If C.J. Gardner-Johnson wasn't there, but he is there, and he's going to be rotating between that safety and corner spot. But my ultimate point is, when you look at the roster from top to bottom, we're just better. And I personally didn't put too much stock into that Week 18 game, even for us, right? We won, but it meant nothing to me because I knew the circumstances. You guys played third-string guys. We were just trying to close the deal. I think both teams were relatively sleepwalking. So it's hard for me to put too much stock into Week 18. And even I don't put too much stock into the first meeting because that was then. And I'm a firm believer that you can change the narrative. You can change the legacy of your season in a matter of a week or 2, maybe less than that. You can change it during the week. So I give so much credit to the Giants for being where they are because you're right. They are playing with house money, and they are one of those teams that they are dangerous. I have a lot of respect for the Giants for doing what they did. But my perspective is outside of the Eagles just having the better roster, just being better, just having the longer trend of success, Daniel Jones got to show it to me again, with all due respect. He has to show me he could do it again. Because look, that was a once in a lifetime performance for him. Would you say that was his best performance of his career?
Yes, it was his best performance of his career, but you can't say it was once in a lifetime. It's his last 2 starts. Look what he did against the Colts too. He was perfect, absolutely perfect. 2 rushing, 2 passing touchdowns.
Jeff Saturday's Colts, man. I'm telling you, Jeff Saturday's Colts, the team that got outscored by 89 points in their last 8 games.
Hey, it's better than, dragging your feet through all 4 quarters against the third stringers. The Giants never did that. So I don't know what to tell you, man. At least the Colts were playing their starters.
Watch the film, dude. Did you see Jalen Hurts go outside at all in that game?
No, but doesn't that worry you? Doesn't that concern you?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. 2 weeks ago it did. I'll admit it.
I'll say this, right? I'll say this, the fact that it's so funny. I will admit the Eagles have kind of been sleepwalking the past few weeks, but there's so much context to that I feel like a lot of people want to ignore. Yes, the Eagles have kind of fallen flat on offense over the past few weeks, but what's the common denominator? Jalen Hurts hasn't been there, right? And I think that further strengthened his MVP case. That Cowboys game, the Eagles were competitive, but Gardner Minshew, he just didn't have it. Turned the ball over 4 times. That can't happen. And then the Saints game, I kind of put that game more so on coaching rather than Gardner, but Gardner still threw that pick 6. You still have to understand what your wide receiver is telling you. But regardless, 2 losses on the season, Jalen Hurts was not there. Jalen Hurts is back. Jalen Hurts is ready to go. Not on the injury report. I'm telling you, Kevin, it was exciting. The Minnesota Vikings game was exciting, but it ends this Saturday. I'm telling you right now, Kev.
You guys think Jalen Hurts is 100% healthy?
No one is. This is the NFL, baby.
Yeah, no one's 100%. I think he's more healthier than he was 2 weeks ago.
Okay. All right. So you think that less than 100% Jalen Hurts is still better than Daniel Jones the way he's playing right now?
Yes.
You're wild. You're out of your mind, bro.
Yes.
You're out of your mind.
Now,
I think Giants fans have this blind faith that this guy is Patrick Mahomes.
He's throwing no passes like him, Jeff. He's throwing behind the back handoffs like him, Jeff.
I'll tell you what, though. I do agree with that. When he saw that, I'm like, dude, if Patrick Mahomes did that, social media would have blew up. It's almost like no one saw Daniel Jones actually do that.
I know. Jeff, look, man, all I'm saying, dude, peaking and momentum is a thing. And the Eagles peaked. Their momentum is down. The Giants, momentum way up here, bro. How many times have we seen a team with a bye come out flat? Now, the Eagles basically have been they haven't played a meaningful game in over a month.
The last time they played a meaningful game, in my opinion, was when they played Tennessee the first week of December.
Right. And so you think you can just turn that on January 20th or whatever day they're playing? 21st?
I would call that matchup a meaningful game.
It was a meaningful game, but okay. I'll
only because they were able to close the number 1 seed, so it meant something.
Yeah.
But to your point, they haven't. They've been lulling through December. And
the Giants have been playing playoff football with the exception of week 18 where they rest their starters, which I don't think they should have done, but they did. I would have gone into the playoffs. It would be completely different right now. This conversation would be completely different if the Giants started their starters in that game and probably would have won or at least pushed the Eagles even further closer to the edge.
Well, maybe the Eagles wouldn't even be playing the Giants then.
Maybe, but they would have met at some point.
I do want to say this, though, because I know we were talking about the rest versus rust debate on here last week, but didn't it feel good for you knowing that Saquon Barkley had a whole week off, Daniel Jones had a whole week off, and look what they did?
Dude, that's the only benefit is, first of all, no, I don't want to see Daniel Jones have a week off. Like, he should keep playing. The same with his receivers. I said that before. You can't rest the starters. They need as many reps as they can get. And they look fine. That's great in the wild card round. Saquon is different. I'm glad he got some rest. And in fact, he's basically coming off a 2 weeks rest because he only had 9 carries against the Vikings.
Yeah, 15 touches.
He made the most of all the touches that he got. Right. But I don't even think he was tackled in the game. So, he's basically got 2 straight bye weeks. He should be super fresh. And now coming to play the Eagles, you don't have to rush Daniel Jones 17 times like he did against the Vikings because they couldn't just figure it out. The Eagles are going to hit him harder. They're not going to allow him to just run wild. So you got to hand the ball off to Saquon probably 20 plus times in this game. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that you're going to give Saquon a chance. He's from the Philadelphia area, right, Jeff? You know that.
Oh, yeah, he's from call play.
Yeah, so you don't think he's going to come to play? You don't think he's going to come to ball out?
I know he's going to come ball out.
Just to make it clear, wherever he's from, that's not Philadelphia. So
Philadelphia area. It's like from Philly the way I'm from Philly.
But overall, though, all jokes aside, serious question for you, Kevin. Your wide receiver core.
Yeah.
I understand Daniel Jones is doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
But how much faith do you have in your wide receiver core, Isaiah Hodges and what is it? Romeo Dobbs?
I can't even name it four of them.
No, I'm not trying. I'm trying to be genuine here, Jeff. Stop spicing it, Jeff. I'm trying to be serious here. How much faith do you have in that wide receiver core to truly elevate their game against a top 3, top 5 defense in the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, here's the way I look at it. Basically, you got Isaiah Hodgins, who's basically your AJ Brown, and then you got Darius Slayton, who's your Devonta Smith. And no, obviously, look, hey, when you're doing the roster breakdown, and it's true, Tone, you nailed it. I would say wide receiver and linebacker are the 2 areas on the roster where you're like, this team, how did they make the playoffs? I don't have a lot of faith in the wide receivers, I'll admit. Like, I don't think a single one. Isaiah Hodgins just went over 100 yards against the Vikings. It was a miracle. I don't think that's ever happening again. And I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of Giants fans who are looking at this team and like, oh, Isaiah Hodgins. They're going next year, draft pick, sign Odell Beckham Jr., Isaiah Hodgins, number 3 wide receiver. And I'm here telling you right now, if Isaiah Hodgins is on the field next year, dude, I'm out. You got to find 4 or 5 wide receivers better than Isaiah Hodgins. I don't want to see that dude playing next year. So all love to him now. Hope that he can make a miracle happen the rest of the playoffs. But if there's an area where the Giants are weakest, it's definitely wide receiver. I don't know how they're going to make it happen, but guess what? I didn't know how they were going to make it happen up until this point. And for some reason, somehow, Daniel Jones keeps throwing the ball in a place where they can only drop it sometimes, which is what they do. They don't drop it all the time, but he puts it right in their hands. Makes it pretty hard.
This is where I think the Giants are in a really good spot going forward. And not just this year, but in future years to come. Daniel Jones has earned his money. He's earned a contract extension. But you don't have to pay this guy $40 million, $45 million. You can pay him $25 million. You can pay him $30 million, a short-term deal. Oh, and you're going to have a bunch of cap space to go with it.
Jeff, he's making millions of dollars every week at this point. Every game he wins at this point is another like $2, $3, $5 million per year, probably. Think about that. If you win the divisional game, you get to the NFC Championship game. What if he wins that game? He goes to the Super Bowl. What if he wins that game, wins Super Bowl MVP? All of a sudden, you're talking about making Daniel Jones one of the highest paid NFL quarterbacks.
Well, here's the other thing, too, you got to keep in mind. Maybe other teams will want him then.
Yeah. So here's what I would do, not to jump too far ahead if I were the Giants, but I would try my damnedest to try to get Daniel Jones locked up to a team-friendly long-term deal, then use the franchise tag on Saquon Barkley as a, launch into negotiations, a starting point for a contract talk. Because now I used to think, bring back Daniel Jones, let Saquon walk, but now I think they're dependent on each other. Like, maybe not so much Saquon, but Daniel Jones is only going to be good if he has an elite running back, who can kind of do, the read option and help with the running game a little bit. So now if Daniel Jones doesn't sign that long, if he's not interested in signing like a team-friendly deal, then you have to use the franchise tag on Daniel Jones as the starting point for the conversation for negotiations. And then Saquon Barkley, you have to risk losing him to free agency.
Kevin, let me ask you this. We have a couple more minutes left in the segment before we bring up our guy, Tom Kelly. I want to get your perspective as if you were the Giants opponent, right? You have the pulse of the Giants. You're locked in on the Giants. I want to get your perspective on this. What would you say is the Achilles heel, the most detrimental thing about the New York Giants going into this Eagles game? I want you to try to take your Giants colored glasses off and look at it from the position of the opponent. How do I beat the New York Giants?
I think it's a pretty simple formula. When the Giants are on offense, you have to just stop Saquon. Like, I can usually tell on the first drive, like, if the Giants get stuffed 3 and out, Saquon's not running the ball well, it's going to be a long game. That usually doesn't turn around. The Vikings game, they went right down the field, easy score. If they get a field goal or a touchdown, or at least move the ball, a couple first downs on the first drive, I can tell that the game script's going to unfold in their favor. They may not win, but they'll at least go their way. And then on defense, you got to take advantage. They're so aggressive with the blitzes and stuff. You got to beat the blitz. You got to pick up the blitz, and then when you do, find the open guy, make the big play. The Giants are going to take a lot of risks on that side of the ball. It's just the way they play. Those are the two biggest things. You got to stop Saquon. I put everyone in the box, try to stop Saquon right away. Hopefully you don't get fooled by a play action, bootleg type thing and doing that. But that's the way I'd stop the Giants.
Quick follow-up. Were you surprised when Wink entered that game, the Vikings game, the way he did, the way he called that game? Were you surprised? Because I think
was
that was
a little surprised because I didn't think all the chunk yards would come. But when you kind of see the game plan as a whole and you realize, oh, wow, they really, really shut down Justin Jefferson, but they did it by like devoting 3 defenders to him on almost every play. It makes sense why everything underneath for Hawkinson and Cook was so wide open.
Okay.
Yeah, Tone, you actually you read my mind on that question about Wink Martindale and the zone defense. So, Kevin, before we let you go here, you get one chance to pick the final score. I really want to hear this one.
Giants win 23-21.
What are they going to get? A winning field goal, or are they going to have to lead the whole game?
No, it'll be 21-21 somehow. And then the Giants will score a touchdown to tie it at 21, and then they'll go for 2 to win.
Oh, okay. I'm curious here. Well, you know what? If the Eagles would lose 23-21 like that, I think Good Morning NFC East would be goodbye Jonathan Gannon for about a whole offseason.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Wouldn't hate it.
Oh, man. Hey, listen, Kevin, we appreciate you, my guy. It's all fun and games, man. It's all fun and games. We appreciate you. Thanks for waking up early with us, my guy. We're definitely going to bring you up next Wednesday. Win or lose on both parties, on both our sides. Win or lose, we're bringing you up next Wednesday, and we're going to discuss how this thing went down, my guy. Kevin, take care, my man.
Peace.
See ya, bud.
Oh, man, that was fun, Jeff, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. Just ganging up on. I mean, we really did pull the Wink Martindale on the guy, didn't we?
The blitz.
yeah, we just blitz. I'm like, yo, what, Tone, get in here. We're both going after him. But we got Tom Kelly coming up after the break. Should be a fun show. This is our first time having multiple guests on Good Morning NFC East, but glad we were able to get the Kevin Boyer perspective. Now we're going to get the WIP perspective from Tom Kelly coming up.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm Managing Director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Postgame, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
Always a pleasure to have Tom Kelly hop on Good Morning NFC East. After I had to listen to my buddy Kevin Boiler basically say the Giants are going to beat the Eagles this week. TK, did the Giants have any chance?
I mean, I'll never say, Jeff, that a team has no chance. The Giants, theoretically, they have a chance to win this game. Do I think it's going to happen? I would be extremely surprised if the Giants won this game. Can they keep it close for a while? I think that's possible, but no, I don't think the Giants have much of a chance to beat the Eagles on Saturday night.
I was kind of talking about this with Rob Ellis last night, and I can't remember probably the most confident I was going into a playoff game for the Eagles' perspective. I think the last time might have been 2004 when they played the Vikings in the divisional round. And we got to remember, the Eagles didn't have their best offensive player in Terrell Owens that game either.
No, I mean, it's been a long time since you felt that confident. And hey, let's face it. I mean, the Eagles haven't been in the playoffs a ton, up to the Doug Peterson era. There was a long lull there between Andy and Doug where he only played one playoff game, that game against the Saints in 2013. So, a lot of time in between there. But yeah, I mean, the Eagles are the better team in every spot. I was talking about this the other night when I was on. What position on the field are the Giants better? Running back, that's it? I mean, there's really no other position you can look at and say the Giants are better talent-wise than the Eagles. And I'd be really surprised if they're able to pull this upset. If the Eagles lose this game, it's going to come down to the Eagles beating themselves. It's that simple.
And I've given you guys a lot of credit at WIP this week. I think the WIP social media account actually retweeted my one tweet about the Red Hot Giants. I'm like, you mean the team that's 3-6-1 their last 9? This is what we're going with right now. And I think it was Connor Hughes, the athlete. He was really stretching the goalpost. And well, if you take away the Week 18 game, and if you take away a 61-yard field goal, they're 3-1 their last 4. I'm like, we're really doing this right now. This is how desperate like this franchise is to try to compete with a 14-win team.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where you don't want to be disrespectful of any opponent, and people get superstitious, I guess, about looking past an opponent. But we're not part of the team. We can do that, and it would be a situation where the Eagles would have to play really poorly to lose this game. Like we saw what the Eagles did in New York a few weeks ago, and I'm not talking about the game at home, the game in New York, where the Eagles destroyed that team. And I get the Giants were without some players. They have some guys back now that they didn't have at that point. But, I think the Eagles are probably about 10 points better than the Giants, even when these teams are at full strength. And the Giants haven't been playing great, as you said, Jeff, the second half of the season either. They got off to a hot start. They took advantage of a near easy schedule. They deserve credit for that. But ultimately, there's a talent level disparity here. And I think that's going to be evident on Saturday night.
When I was watching the Giants-Vikings game, I noticed a lot of changes, per se. A lot of misdirection. A lot of stuff to get Daniel Jones in open space. And they set up Saquon Barkley and set up Isaiah Hodgins. What are the Eagles going to do to counter that?
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Gannon's going to need to, be smart with his game plan. Now, I don't think he is going to, increase blitzing that much because that's just not what he does. This game's going to be simple. It's going to come down to the lines, and it's going to come down to the Eagles getting pressure with 4. I mean, you got to account for Saquon. He's the one guy who scares me. I know the receivers are better than expected, but Isaiah Hodgins doesn't really keep me up at night. Like, he's not terrifying. Slayton's a down the field threat who we've seen in the past has gotten to the Eagles. But yeah, I think you're going to need to make sure you try to take Saquon out of the game as much as possible, get pressure with 4, and try to keep Daniel Jones contained because he's with his legs. Make Daniel Jones beat you with his arm. Don't let him get out on the edge. Don't let him, get that running game going because that's when he's truly dangerous.
One of the things I like about this matchup is the Eagles' front four against the Giants' offensive line. And I thought they absolutely destroyed them the first meeting. If they can get to Daniel Jones early, TK, I feel like they could really kind of dictate the flow of the game early.
Yeah, I mean, early is going to be the key. I think for the Giants, they need to get a lead early if they're going to have any chance, because they're not equipped to play from behind. Like they did a little last week against Minnesota. But again, Minnesota's defense nowhere close to what the Eagles' defense is. So I think if the Eagles can jump on top early, get up 7 to 10 points, make Daniel Jones start throwing the football, get him in those third and long situations. Yeah, I think he's going to have a lot of problems with this defense. And, I think Gannon's going to need to do some interesting things in terms of trying to take advantage of the interior. I think that's where you want to attack this Giants offensive line rather than, the outside with Andrew Thomas. So, yeah, I think that you got to get pressure early. And the best way to do that is get a lead and make the Giants throw the ball.
It feels like such a long time that both the Eagles and the Giants were good. I can't remember a time since probably maybe 2008 when they went to the Meadowlands and beat them.
Yeah, I mean, probably since then. I think 2010, both teams were pretty good. Obviously, the Deshaun Jackson punt return clinched the division for the Eagles that day. The rest of the season didn't go great after that. But, that's the last time I can remember a big Eagles-Giants game. Like I was talking about this the other night. When's the last big Eagles-Giants game where both teams were good? It's had big-time implications, even if it's not a playoff game late in the season. And it was probably 2010. It was probably that Deshaun game, which is just crazy because this used to be the norm. Like every single year, it used to be Eagles-Giants fighting for the NFC East. And, sometimes the Eagles would get it. Sometimes the Giants would get it. But it's cool that we're kind of going back to that early 2000s, feel of both these teams being good at the same time.
I still tell a lot of fans this. I think the most I ever got watching a football game was when they played the Giants, but the Eagles won the game. Do you remember when Garcia ran for the first down in 06 when they were making their run? Then he had to play 3 straight, and he did the spike. I'm like, you're going to really call a penalty on that? I'm like, of all the things to call a penalty on, and I think Strahan hit Garcia late the play before that. And I've talked to Garcia about this. He said that was the biggest BS penalty I've ever experienced in my life. And the Eagles ended up scoring on the drive anyway. But that was like one of those games where anything could have happened at any moment. And I think after the Eagles beat them, I think it was 36-22 was the final. You kind of knew they were going to win the NFC East. It always felt like whoever won Eagles-Giants, there was like that late in the year was going to win the division.
And that was, I believe, the week before the game in Dallas where the Eagles went down there and the Christmas game. But yeah, I mean, that was a fun run. And every year it felt like these teams were playing in important football games. 2000, 2004, it was the rivalry. I mean, without a doubt with Shockey and Strahan and all those guys. And then 06, 08, obviously they played big games, played in the postseason, but it's been a while since both teams were relevant at the same time. The Cowboys have emerged a little bit over that time period. Washington will have their years where they're competitive, but I think it's going to be fun to see that rivalry renewed on Saturday.
Is this the Eagles' biggest rival, or do you go Dallas?
I mean, for me, it's the Giants, and it always has been the Giants. Like, growing up when I did, like the Giants were just way more relevant. The Cowboys weren't a team to be reckoned with. They weren't a team to be concerned about. I don't like either team, obviously, but I couldn't stand those Giants teams, Jeff. Like Strahan and Shockey and Tiki Barber. I hated those teams. And growing up in my kind of like high school years, that was the Eagles' rival. And I still view the Giants as the biggest rival. I know most fans would probably disagree, but personally, I hate the Giants more.
Yeah, I think I don't want to say it was a hatred, but I definitely didn't like them. And I think what bothered me was, I think it was 02. It was 02 when Kerry Collins threw a touchdown pass to Jeremy Shockey. I think it was his only catch of the game, and he's shaking his head at Dawkins, like, because he beat him. I'm like, congrats, dude. Like, you made a big catch for once in your life. It was, but that was part of the rivalry. That was part of the fun of it. And you're right. Like those early 2000 teams, like the Eagles had to beat the Giants to win the NFC East in 01, and the Giants almost pulled it off with the reverse there on the last play. And, just there were so many memories. Even when the Giants were bad, it feels like in the 2010s, we missed that because the Giants were that awful.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where we know this league is cyclical, and the Giants, let's face it, the Giants just stuck with Eli for way too long. And I think that's something that they should have done differently. And I mean, McAdoo tried to bench him and it ultimately cost him his job. It turns out it was probably the right decision when you look at, how Geno Smith has at least played recently and where Eli was in his career. But yeah, I think that was part of it. But I'll tell you what, I mean, I will say this for the Giants. I don't think they're that big of a threat this year, but moving forward, yeah, they're going to be good. I mean, Brian Daboll's a tremendous coach. I don't think they're going to have Mike Kafka very long. I think he's going to end up getting a head coaching job, whether it's this year or whether it's down the road. And even though I don't like the Giants, I'll give them credit for that. I think they have done a good job in really starting this rebuild. And between Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, they're definitely on the right track.
I got so frustrated this week because I've been giving Daboll, Mike Kafka, Wink Martindale a ton of credit, Joe Shane a ton of credit. And I actually saw someone say, well, Dave Gettleman drafted Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. And I'm like, yeah, but they couldn't win anything. These guys were castaways for the most part. Daniel Jones was laughable to even think about giving him a contract extension 3 months ago. Now it's perfectly legit. And it's because of that coach. It's because of Mike Kafka. And yeah, I just don't think Dave Gettleman should have any credit on what this Giants team is doing.
No, and this season, if anything, it just shows how incompetent Dave Gettleman and Joe Judge were. I mean, the way that organization has been run the last couple of years was terrible. I mean, Daniel Jones was a bad pick. Now he's turned out to be a proficient quarterback this year, but like you said, so much of it comes down to coaching, and a lot of that, is how quarterback success is determined. I give Daniel Jones credit for getting better. But yeah, I think the coaching staff's had a lot to do with it. Like if Joe Judge and that same staff is there, Daniel Jones isn't having the success that he's having this year.
They're probably a 4 or 5 win team. We're going to be honest. That's just how the Giants were. One thing I wanted to mention when it came to what this team is doing is just Brian Daboll's creativity and his unconventional way of thinking. Most coaches hire their buddies, right? Nick Sirianni knew Jonathan Gannon, etc. Brian Daboll didn't really know Mike Kafka from really anything, and he hires him. Same with Wink Martindale. And I just like the way he's approached this whole head coaching thing. Like, look, I'm going to try a different way here, and we're going to see if it works.
Yeah, no, Daboll's fantastic. And, I would say this, when you look at this game, I think the one really interesting storyline, and this is one area where the Giants may have an advantage here. And I believe in the Eagles coaching staff, but let's face it, the Giants coaching staff, they're more experienced in these types of situations. Like Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, Jonathan Gannon, I know they've been on staffs, but they haven't had these high-profile jobs in these big spots. Daboll's been running an offense that's played deep into the AFC playoffs the last couple of years. Kafka has worked under Andy, winning a Super Bowl in 2019 and running that Chiefs offense the last few years. And we know about Wink Martindale's success. So I do wonder about, you get into a playoff game, how these coaches are going to respond, because the Giants have more experience. And that's the one area where I think they might have a decided advantage.
Do you think Brian Daboll's a better coach than Nick Sirianni?
Do I think he's a better coach than Nick Sirianni? At this point, I would say I would say no. Like I think they're certainly comparable. I think Nick Sirianni, what he's done in 2 years is phenomenal. Now Daboll, as far as an offensive mind, I think Daboll's up there with the tops. What he did with Josh Allen, obviously, like the guy knows how to develop quarterbacks. That's pretty clear. And this might not be fair to Nick Sirianni, but I'd be interested to see how he does without somebody like Shane Steichen with him. Like Daboll in Buffalo ran that offense. So we've kind of seen him without a Mike Kafka type. We've never really seen Nick Sirianni in that situation. I hope we don't. Like, even if Steichen were to go, I'd hope he'd replace him with a really good offensive coordinator. But as far as rallying a team, as far as, getting the trust of that locker room, Sirianni's been so good at that I don't think I can just say Dable's a better coach. But I think it's one of those things where we'll see over the next couple of years. I think they're both clearly the two best coaches in the NFC East right now.
One of the things I've been watching with the coaching search, there's only 5 jobs available. And everybody kept fearing, okay, the Eagles are going to lose Shane Steichen. The Eagles are going to lose Jonathan Gannon. But if you're seeing Mike Kafka's name's rising up there, Sean Payton's available, there's so many names. Doesn't it feel like they could run it back with Steichen and Gannon for the most part?
I mean, that would be best case scenario. I mean, I have been a big fan of both guys. I think specifically Steichen. I like Jonathan Gannon as well. I think he takes way too much heat, but Steichen has done a phenomenal job. I mean, of calling plays, of running this offense. I mean, look at Shane Steichen the last 3 years has helped develop Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts. Like, he's directly responsible for helping develop those guys. So I think he'd be, if I could only keep one, he'd be the one to keep. But if you could keep both, that would be phenomenal. Now, I think ultimately Gannon probably gets a job. I think he probably gets that Houston job. But, yeah, if you could keep Steichen, that would be a huge win for the Eagles.
I don't know if you heard most of the Giants coordinators talk yesterday, especially Wink Martindale. I don't know if you got to catch most of it. I know he said about Boston Scott not really being a giant killer and all that. Do you feel like Wink talked a little too much yesterday?
I mean, I don't know. I kind of like Wink Martindale, honestly. I think he's pretty entertaining. I like that he has no filter, and he's a true, like, all you have to do is look at him and know this is a true football guy. So I don't really worry about what he says too much. I think the Giants are coming in and the Giants are having an us against the world mentality. I think that's the mentality they should have. Is it going to be enough to beat the Eagles on Saturday night? I don't think so. But from a coaching perspective, I like the fact that they're taking this kind of, adversarial approach. I think that's probably the right way to go about it.
There's one thing I liked about this week, not seeing Jalen Hurts on the injury report, and the Giants noticed that too. They said, look, this ain't gamemanship. Like, you just don't do that this time of year. And that's where I think the Giants' veteran experience comes in with Wink Martindale, with Brian Dable. I think they're fully expecting Jalen Hurts to be 100%.
Yeah, and Jalen's going to play like he's 100%. And my prediction for the playoffs is Jalen's going to be playing through pain, but I don't think we'll be able to notice that on TV. Like, I think he understands optically that, his team needs to see him playing like Jalen Hurts. And I think they're going to come out. I think he's going to run plenty on Saturday night. And I don't think he's going to be giving off a lot of signs that he's injured. But, yeah, he's going to be playing through pain this postseason. I mean, is he 100%? I don't think so. But he's good enough to play. And I think the Eagles not listing him on the injury report is more than anything, a message that, yeah, he's good and he's ready to go.
Why do you think the Eagles have been getting so much disrespect heading into the postseason?
I mean, I don't know if they have been getting disrespect. I don't see that as much. I think that can be perceived, but I don't know. I don't see a lot of people out there, disparaging the Eagles or saying that they're not a Super Bowl caliber team. I just think when you have that bye week, you kind of get forgotten about a little bit. I think that's kind of happened. I think the Eagles have not playing well the last couple weeks of the season. I personally don't put a lot of stock into that, but I think some people do. So I don't know if they're being disrespected. I think it's been a while since they played good football, and we'll see this weekend. But as far as what I expect them to come out and look like the team we saw most of the year.
Yeah. Them and the Chiefs are kind of in the same boat, right? They haven't played a meaningful football game in a couple of weeks now. And I know Kansas City had to play for a home field advantage last week too, but you're right. It feels like, though, in the AFC, everybody's talking about the Bills, everybody's talking about the Bengals. In the NFC, we all know everybody's talking about the 49ers, but they still have to get past Dallas this week. How do you see the rest of this postseason shaking out?
Well, yeah, I was thinking about this last night, Jeff, and the NFC I think is interesting because if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm rooting for San Fran this week. I think the Eagles match up better with them than Dallas, and I think it's one of these situations where, the Eagles match up well with San Fran. San Fran matches up well with Dallas, and Dallas matches up well against the Eagles. So I think the Niners are going to win. I think they'll pull away late, find a way to force a couple turnovers. In the AFC, I like Andy and the Chiefs. I think Doug and the Jags have been a cool story. Do they keep that game competitive? I think they could. Ultimately, I think the Chiefs win by at least a touchdown. So I like them there. And then, I don't know, I'm getting a weird feeling that the Bengals are going to go into Buffalo and win that game this weekend. And I know the Bengals didn't look great last weekend, and the Bills played a much closer game than they should have against Miami. But it just I can't really explain it, but I have a weird feeling that it might be, justice for the Bengals kind of getting the shaft here going into the playoffs. But I think they're going to find a way to go into Buffalo and win that game.
It was funny because I had to rank the 8 teams left in the playoffs, and I put the Bengals 6th. And Bengals fans, they were up in arms. They said, well, what about this? I'm like, I understand that. I said, I could put the Bengals at number 1. But that offensive line, 3 of the 5 guys out, both your tackles, that scares me a bit.
Yeah, no, and it should. And that offensive line's been a problem now. But I got to say, this is something that kind of showed back up last week is I don't know if I trust Josh Allen, Jeff. I don't know if I trust Josh Allen in these big games to protect the football. He played a really careless game last Sunday against the Dolphins. And if he plays that way against the Bengals, they're not going to be able to overcome that. I like that Bills team a lot. I think, ultimately they've been my pick all year to win the Super Bowl. I just think going into this game, I get a weird feeling the Bengals are going to force some turnovers. Joe Burrow is going to do what he needs to do, and they're going to find a way.
Don't you think this is probably one of the best divisional rounds we've had in some time? It just feels like there's a lot of loaded teams this year.
Yeah, I mean, and the Saturday games look like mismatches on paper. There's no doubt about it. I mean, obviously in Philadelphia, we're very interested in both games, not just the Eagles game, but you have the Doug and Andy aspect of the other game. But the Sunday is just incredible. I mean, Bills-Bengals, I can't imagine what the ratings are going to be for that game. It's going to be wild. And then, I mean, Dallas-San Francisco, talk about a throwback to the past here. I mean, how many big games have those two teams played in their history? So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great weekend. And Sunday, especially from a national perspective, I think is a huge day in the NFL with those matchups.
I feel like we need to get recordings of Madden and Summerall and just put them compile them to today's players and just have them broadcasting. No disrespect to my boy Kevin Burkhardt, because I think he'll call a great game Sunday, but it feels like just if there was one game you could bring back Madden and Summerall, that would be the game.
They're the teams that you think about when you think about Madden and Summerall, and it's like, I remember all the games they called. Charles Haley's basically. It seemed like playing on both teams at once. It's so weird, but yeah, I mean that era of late '90s Niners Cowboys being back is going to be cool as well. It's kind of an old school NFC weekend with these 4 teams left in the playoffs.
So it was funny with the Man Summerall thing too. I watch a lot of old Eagles games, as you know, and I swear I feel like I watched the 2000 wild card game when they kicked the crap out of Tampa at least 3 or 4 times a year. And I feel like I want to play in the game, just listen to Madden and Summerall at the beginning at the top of the show. And they literally just go right to it. The Bucs can't win in 40-degree weather. It's like they just get you fired up to watch a football game.
Yeah. I mean, that was an awesome, era of the NFL and growing up watching Madden and Summerall. And, especially with it felt like they called every big Cowboys game. They basically did for, 15 years. So, it would be cool to have definitely one of the top broadcast teams I've ever heard, without a doubt.
I'll say this too. Just watching a lot of the 90s broadcasters and today's, I feel like they don't criticize the athletes as much as they did in the 90s.
Oh yeah, probably. I think that's fair. I think, it's a different, atmosphere now, and now athletes will fire back at you. Like, they listen to this stuff and they'll fire back at you on social media. So I think that's fair to say. I think it was definitely probably more unfiltered, for better or worse, back in the 90s.
I do think it's funny all the vitriol Shannon Sharp gets. I don't even think he says anything that controversial, and they get upset. And Shannon Sharp's like, boy, I run circles around you if I was playing in today's game. He probably would too, because that's how good he was.
Yeah. I mean, some analysts do go over the top. I don't know if Shannon goes over the top that much, but yeah, definitely. He's not afraid to speak his mind.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those guys. But overall, TK, I want to get your predictions on all the games here. So if you want to just go game by game, start with the Chiefs, then go with the Eagles, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs win. I think they beat the Jags. I think I'll go 38-24 there. I think it's probably close for a while, but ultimately I think the Chiefs have too much offense. Eagles, Giants, I was thinking about this. I'm going to go a little closer than I originally thought I would. I'll say 27-20 Eagles. I think the Giants will be able to hang in there for a while. I don't think it's like the Eagles need a late touchdown drive, but I think they're up most of the game. They hold on 27-20, maybe get a stop on that final drive to beat the Giants. So I like the Eagles there. As I said, Bills-Bengals, just a weird feeling about this game. I mean, on paper, it would look like the Bills are the better team, but ultimately, I'll take the Bengals. I'll say 27-24. I think they get the win late. And then Niners-Cowboys, this one's tough. I mean, I think it's going to be a close game for most of it. But in the end, I think the difference is going to be D'Amico Ryans in that defense. I think they're going to get some turnovers off Dak. And I'll take the Niners in that one. I'll say 31-17. Niners beat Dallas.
If Dak plays like he does, though, against Philly and against Tampa Bay, do you think Dallas wins?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. If Dak plays that way, yeah, I think they do win. Dak's just inconsistent, and that's what scares me about him as well. Like, if Dak comes in here and he's hot, we know he shredded the Eagles defense, and that's why I think he is a tough matchup for the Eagles. But I think the Niners are better equipped to deal with him with that front. I think they'll be able to get pressure. D'Amico Ryans, I think, will throw different looks at him, and ultimately, I think the Niners find a way to win that game. But if Dak protects the ball and Dak plays smart, yeah, the Cowboys can absolutely win that game, no doubt.
And finally, I kind of want to, I guess I got two more for you. So I guess we'll go with, do you still feel it's going to be Eagles Eagles in the Super Bowl? Who would you have them playing?
Yeah, I mean, as of now, I'd probably have Eagles and Chiefs. And again, I've been on the Bills all year. I'm kind of switching up now just because of the feel in this game. I just think this matchup is weird for them. So I have the Bengals winning the game. But, I mean, yeah, I'd have Eagles-Chiefs, and what a story that would be.
Can you imagine Andy? Thank God the Eagles got a Super Bowl. Can you imagine if Andy got a Super Bowl before the Eagles did?
Well, yeah, I mean, that would have – yeah, I think things would have changed significantly. I think once the Eagles got their Super Bowl, it was a lot easier for people to root for Andy a few years ago.
I think it's the same with Doug, too. Like, everybody appreciates Doug because of what he did here. And now I feel like Jacksonville has just as big of a love for Doug as Philly did.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a great job, Jeff, and his players love him. And that's one of the things that is pretty cool about Doug is that, you know his players will play for him. And it seemed like they were really happy to win that game for him as much as they were happy to, win it for themselves last week.
I thought one of the coolest things of Wildcard Weekend, though, was seeing Trevor Lawrence in the Waffle House at 3 a.m. after probably the biggest game of his life.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. And Trevor Lawrence, I give him a lot of credit. I mean, to throw those 4 picks early and to bounce back, that's no easy thing. And I think he showed a lot of toughness last week. He really did.
The guy doesn't seem to care. I think that's the best part. Like, he had 0.0 passer rating with 2 minutes left in the first half, and he's just like, I guess I can't get any worse.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and some quarterbacks are built like that. And, I think the Eagles are fortunate the same way. Like, if Jalen were to come out and make a couple mistakes early, which I doubt, but if he were, he wouldn't go in the tank. Like, he would bounce back, and you need that out of a young quarterback. I thought that was a really big moment for Trevor Lawrence on Saturday in terms of his career moving forward.
And finally, we can end the Mike McCarthy debate, right? Like, he's coming back to Dallas.
Yeah, I think he's coming back. I don't think he should. I think, if they lose, like, I would have fired him last year. I never would have hired him in the first place. But in the end, I think they will bring him back. And I think that's good news for the Eagles because as talented as Dallas is, I do think McCarthy holds them back. And I don't think that's really changed.
All right, TK, always a pleasure having you on, my friend. I'll have to get you on maybe next week or maybe even 2 weeks. We'll see what happens at the NFC Championship game. Hopefully the Eagles advance, but it does look. I do like their chances. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I do too, and appreciate it as always, Jeff. Thanks.
Yeah,
man.
All right, sounds great. Thanks, TK. Okay, so we had TK, Tom Kelly from Sports Radio, WIP. I'm fortunate enough to go on his show. I go on Rob Ellis a lot on WIP during the week. I don't know if you guys hear me from time to time. I'm on there. It was great to have Kevin Boiler. Tone and I, we were able to get him out of the cave. You know, we found him deep in the cave. We were able to get him out, and not really surprised he picked the Giants. I'm not going to lie. Kevin's been through and through the whole season. He might as well just keep rolling with it. But I do think the Eagles are going to win this game. You know, I'm not going to be that guy who, well, the Giants can upset. I'm like, yeah, they can. I mean, any team can. But I will say this before we wrap the things up here. If the Eagles lose this game, that might be the most disappointing loss we've seen as Eagles fans. More disappointing than the 2002 NFC Championship game. More disappointing than losing to Green Bay in 2010. I don't think that one was that big, but because it was Aaron Rodgers and the Eagles were limping into the playoffs, but still, the Eagles, they made so many mistakes that game in 2010. The 2002 NFC Championship game, I thought they were a better team than Tampa. I thought they were the best team in the NFL. I thought they were going to win the Super Bowl. The 2003 NFC Championship game, they were clearly better in Carolina. Donovan McNabb gets hit by Mike Rucker late. You saw the result, Ricky Manning Jr., 3 interceptions. Was a Super Bowl loss disappointing? Yeah, but it's a Super Bowl and the Patriots were favored. The 2008 NFC Championship game, that was disappointing too. But again, they were on the road. They were a 6 seed. They just couldn't stop that Kurt Warner bomb to Larry Fitzgerald. They had no answer for Larry Fitzgerald all day. So in my lifetime, probably the two moves, the most disappointing Eagles loss is that 2002 NFC Championship game. I still watch that game for God knows what reason. I guess because I want to see everything they did wrong. I probably memorize every play of that game. It's a sickness that that'll probably never be cured for me. So hopefully I don't have to deal with that on Saturday. The Eagles are the better team than the Giants. They should win this game. But, you know, I guess it's me being more of an optimist that the Eagles should take care of business here and they should go to the NFC Championship game. I just don't see anybody beating this team at home this year. I really don't. Not in front of this fan base, not with this talented team, not with this pass rush, with a healthy Jalen Hurts. I think the Eagles will be fine. Again, I just don't. I just been getting upset over the whole red hot thing. You know, when you're 3-5-1 in your last 9, 3-2 in your last 5, you're not red hot. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to buy that. Anyway, guys, Birds 365 coming up next. I'd like to thank Tony Shields, Kevin Boiler, Tom Kelly. My name is Jeff Kerr. You guys are going to enjoy this. So on CBSSports.com, coming up in a couple hours, I'm going to have Daniel Jones's career in primetime games. And if you're an Eagles fan, you're probably going to smile. You're probably going to chuckle because it's not good. And that's all I got to say about that. So Birds 365 coming up next. Have a good day, guys.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.